And welcome to Forum 360, a program with a global outlook and a local view. I'm your host, Bill Stephen-Souse, right here on Forum 360. And today we have a special guest couple. We have from actually Lakewood when he grew up, and from Akron. Originally, they were native of Northeast Ohio and the Western Reserve area. We've got Jeff and Patty Kinsbach. And many of you have heard Jeff for years, both up in WMMS and at WONE in Akron, WMMS in Cleveland. And we are appreciative that now in your retirement, you're able to share some retirement suggestions and tell us what you're doing now, Jeff and Patty, since you retired.
Well, thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be on the show.
We're very excited. Thank you.
And we have gone from rocking on the radio to rocking the RV life.
That's what we're calling it, right? Rocking the RV life. And you have recreational vehicles is you know, it's a big subject. And travel is a big subject. You know, PBS always has Rick Steves and traveling around Europe and around the country. But to bring it to a local level, you folks decided after, you know, September 2020, your retirement, you had these expectations to do something different. So give us a little bit of what happened since you retired with respect to RVs and the RV life.
Well, it's really funny because we left on October 18th, 2020, and drove across the country. Our goal was Los Angeles to see our daughter who works out there. And the funny thing about it is when you drive an RV into Los Angeles, you got to be good.
Excellent.
But it was a great feeling for us because it's that anticipation of going on vacation. You know, it's an exciting adventure.
Right.
And, you know, to have the scenery change every day or every other day was just a fabulous feeling for us. And we weren't really sure how long we would do this. I wasn't really positive. It was Patty's original idea to do this.
Right.
But we have not stopped. I mean, we really love it.
Now, you've been married over 30 some years now, right? And so you've worked together, you know, seeing him go off every day to the radio stations, and you figured this is about time we get together and just stay with each other. And I like your attitude. One of the things you say on your podcast, and you're going to talk a little bit about that, where you teach people about RV life, is that you need a strong relationship if you're a husband and wife and you're going on a long trek across the country, right?
Yeah.
So how is that?
Sure.
How have you seen your relationship you know, since your retirement? Improving?
Well, yeah, I tell you, it was a little bit of an adjustment at first because we weren't used to being together 24/7.
Right.
But we did pretty well. I mean, we've always got along. You know, once in a while we have a little fight, but no big deal. But yeah, it's great.
Now,
Well, it's fantastic as long as I do everything she tells me.
right. That's the
right.
way. That's the way my wife and I have. But my wife said she could never do what you're doing, so I admire you for doing this.
Well, you know, but you brought up a really good subject, and that is, you know, we went from, you know, a 3,000 square foot house plus to a
300 square foot.
300 square foot living area.
Oh yeah.
Amazing.
And
driving larger vehicles. Did you have a lot of experience with that when you were younger? Both of you?
No, not at all.
Not at all. We kind of learned by the seat of our pants.
Really?
And,
Okay.
And thank God it's all been good, and we drive very carefully.
Yes.
Watching your podcast, tell us a little bit about how you, several months after your retirement and going on the road, you decided this would be a good way of relating travel by RV. So how did you start your podcast? Some of your sponsorships you're using and so forth. What's going on with your program?
Well, it's Rockin' the RV Life, and you can get them all at rockingthervlife.com. Also on cleveland.com with Plain Dealer.
Right.
We started this podcast it must have been maybe about 10 months into our little journey here. And we had experimented with doing some videos, and we still do some videos. They're on YouTube. We have a YouTube channel, but we found that the podcast worked best for us. And we had been through some issues. I mean, we had some recalls on the chassis on our first RV, our second RV. And we had gone through a lot of difficulty getting service. And we thought, you know what? Let's not glorify this kind of life.
Right.
Let's tell the truth, and let's
talk about how it really is.
Yeah, exactly.
What you go through. Yeah.
So that's what we started, and we thought, well, let's do one once a week. And eventually, Michael Norman of the Plain Dealer called us.
Right.
And he said, I've been following you guys. Would you be interested in coming on the Plain Dealer platform?
Right.
And we said yes. And so we started with them, and that's really helped us a lot. And then they said to us, would you like to do a Sunday column once a month in the Plain Dealer, the print edition? And we thought, fantastic, that's great.
Get the word out and bring it back to Northeast Ohio, all your amazing travels. So how many states, and I think you've even gone to Canada, so how many states have you encountered in your travels so far, Patty?
Oh, let's see. I have it written down over there.
I thought it was over 40. The last podcast was 44, I thought.
Yeah,
it's about right.
That sounds about right.
And you try to find the warmer climates in this kind of weather, we're taping this in the winter time. But
oh yeah, in the winter for sure.
We call it chasing 75.
Right.
Now, one of the things you come up with various things on your podcast. One thing you talk about is planning ahead. And you did so well in broadcasting for years. You ran the Buzzard Morning Zoo. You ran the Kinsbach and Company in Akron, and you had to plan. You had to know how to run your programs. So what are some of the tips you would give someone about planning an RV trip or planning let's say they're just going to take a few months trip. What are you suggesting they do to plan ahead?
Well, as soon as possible, start booking your destination, where you're going to stay. For instance, if you were going to drive down to Key West, Florida is really tight with the campgrounds, and they get filled up pretty quick. So definitely book your destination and slowly fill in between where you're going to go. And you use Trip Wizard as far as like a GPS system.
RV Trip Wizard online.
That's good.
That really helps. Yeah, because it shows where all the campgrounds are on the maps. And you can kind of book through that, or not book through that, but do your route through that.
I think Jeff said on a podcast that I tuned into, location. So you want to make sure that you're, as you said, some of the downsides is being next to a noisy freeway or dogs howling and that type of
thing.
Trains going by.
You're going to get that. Sometimes you just can't avoid that.
Yeah. And when you left Summit County, your home, you said you left a lot of creature comforts behind. I know that's one of your top topics. Yeah. Give us a little bit of, on that topic, leaving the creature comforts behind, saying, hey, we don't have this anymore. We're just going to have to go, with the smaller thoughts in planning.
Well, one of the things the thing that I miss mostly is the garbage disposal.
Oh yeah, okay. The kitchen.
That's tough, Now,
I know what you're thinking. Are these people out of their minds? The thing is, when you are in an RV, you have to really take care of your holding tanks. You have to take care of the black tank and the gray tank.
So the human waste and all that. Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
And you have to be careful what you put down those drains. You just can't take a pan with grease in it and put it into your holding tank.
So you have to be prudent. You have to be cautious and plan for flexibility there. How about shopping and eating and restaurants, and how do you plan for those kind of things?
Well, Bill, we only go to the 5-star restaurants. We would be bankrupt if we did that. We do a lot of shopping, and we cook a lot of our own meals. Patty's a fabulous cook.
Oh, thank you.
And so what we'll do is we'll plan on what we need at the stores. Now, every once in a while, you go into the city and the stores are totally different.
Yeah,
So
right.
it's
Yeah.
a challenge.
Home,
It's
yeah.
interesting walking into grocery stores and they're different all the time. And it's like
Yes,
you walk
right.
in, it's like, now which way do I go? And half the time I can't find what I'm looking for. They don't always have everything that I'm used to. So yeah,
Yeah, you
one of
learn
those things.
you learn to adjust.
Yeah.
All right. Now, you were home at the big recreational vehicle show, the Super Show at IX Center. So, what were some of the reactions from Northeast Ohioans when you got back for that show and talked to people
Well,
normally?
I'll tell you, we had a great turnout. I mean, we are so grateful for everybody who came out, said hello, took pictures with us, asked us questions. And it was interesting because we would poll our audience, and we had a full audience every time. And
Yeah.
we would ask them, how many of you are here to buy something? What are you going to buy? Where do you camp? What kind of camping do you do?
Right.
And we had the full spectrum of everybody out there. It was really a lot of fun.
And people are in Northeast Ohio here and Northern Ohio, all across the country, have always been thankful for your contribution to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And Jeff, many folks, some of our other guests have said we want to thank you. Forum 360 wants to extend our thanks. Someday we'll have to talk about that on a different program.
Sure.
But your resources, you're talking about having to deal with your own maintenance. You have your tools. Tell us a little bit about some of the problems you've noticed, where you have to fix something. You can't
Right.
just take it into the local dealership because there might not be a dealership around.
Well, I think the first thing that went wrong, we had bought a used RV and we were traveling across the country. We're doing pretty well. And then
Headed to California.
I think it was in Missouri, we ran into a pretty good storm, a rainstorm. And Patty started hearing this noise and she goes, I think our retractable stairs keep going out and coming back in,
Ooh.
which is not a good thing on an RV because they stick out a couple of
Right.
feet.
Yeah.
That's going to cause problems.
So we got off the freeway, went into a rest area, and at this point we were pretty desperate. I knew that somehow they had been shorted out by the water, and that I had to disconnect them from operating. When they went back in, I'd pull the wires, or disconnect them. So I had to get underneath the RV. I had a sweatshirt on, and
It was still raining.
oh yeah, there must have been a couple of inches of water under the RV.
Wow.
And I remember laying down in it and going, oh man, what have I got myself into?
Typical.
But I found
yeah.
the wire, disconnected them, and got back in, took the switch off. That cold, wet feeling,
Yeah. Well, so there are some highs and some lows of maintenance, and you found that low spot, but you were able to handle it. And so you have to be resourceful. You have to know where you're going. What about the cost? We're going to be talking about some other things, but I think a couple minutes ahead, we're going to talk about the cost and the expenses, including gasoline and insurance and everything you're dealing with. Our guests are Patty and Jeff Kinsbach. Our topic is the RV life. And, Jeff Kinsbach was a long time member of the Northeast Ohio Rock and Roll Radio groups, and he worked in rock and roll. So the website and the podcast is Rockin' the RV Life, and I think that's a great title. We are on Forum 360. I'm Bill Stephen Souse, Jeff and Patty Kinsbach with us today. We're talking about traveling the RV, recreational vehicles. It's an expensive endeavor, isn't it? Would you
Yes.
say? Would you say?
The spectrum is wide. I mean, you can do this so many different ways.
Right.
People are doing it in their cars now. We see a lot of homemade units. We see
Okay.
school buses that have been converted. And then on the other end of things, we see the giant King Airs. We see the Prevos. We
Right.
see the multi-million-dollar rigs. And it can be pricey.
I wish that I had this information when my folks, we rented a Winnebago. We went up to Canada in the late 1970s, and I remember following with brother and I followed with a car, and we had to follow our dad and mom, and they were driving with my sister. And had we had knowledge like you're giving and imparting to the people here in Northeast Ohio, we would have been a lot better off. But in those days, we didn't have all that.
Right.
Talk about some of the things you had to prepare for with respect to expenses. Insurance, right? You have to be insured. What are some of the other expenses you encounter, Patty and Jeff?
Well, of course, there's the cost of campgrounds.
Right.
And a lot of people do what's called boondocking, where they can find a place to stay without paying for it, without having your hookups. We like our hookups. We like to have our water and our sewer hookup and
Get some amenities.
electricity. Yeah.
We're not 20 anymore.
Yeah, right.
But once in a while, we'll stay in a Cracker Barrel parking lot or a
Right,
Walmart
something like
parking
that,
lot,
yeah.
just to kind of, if we're on the way somewhere, not to
Yeah.
have to pay for a campground.
And
So that helps.
get breakfast or lunch that way, right?
Exactly.
You're in a-
So you've got that
You're
cost.
now in a 30-foot motorhome, and again, we talked a little bit earlier. According to when I look at Rockin the RV Life's website and so forth, I see it's a Newmark Country Star, right? And
Right.
you got it down in North Canton.
It's 38 foot.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh,
38 feet.
38 foot now. Oh, okay.
It's like a mansion.
And do you find that there is a group that I think when you worked the show in Cleveland at the IX Center, there was the Great Lakes, it's a nonprofit, the Great Lakes Recreational Vehicle Association. So there are groups that can help encourage people and give you some information, right?
Yeah, they're a great group. They really are. One thing that is a real positive thing is buying your RV in Northern Ohio, because you get great deals. The prices are fantastic. They're much better than Florida or Arizona or California.
Right.
And you get good service in Northern Ohio, but you're also close to the factory service areas in Indiana in case you need them.
Right.
And so that's why we're loyal customers in Northern Ohio.
Very good. Now, talk about the gasoline or the diesel, whatever. I think have you used both or have you always been a gasoline, or what are you doing now for?
Well, we started our first two RVs were gas, and then we switched to diesel.
All right.
And with diesel, you also have to have DEF if you have a late model. So
right.
we like the diesel much better. It gives us more power, and it's quieter and a much smoother ride.
The engine's in the back, so it's kind of pushes us.
Right.
Very good. A
Instead
little
of
more
being-
power, right? A little more power.
Yeah.
But
Now-
there are ways of getting around the costs of high fuel too, the high fuel costs. And, that is to stay longer in places.
Right.
And we use and we have no connection with any of these people or anything, but we use a TSD card, Open Roads.
Fuel card.
Yeah, it's kind of like you're joining a fleet and you get discounts at
That's
travel
great.
centers and places.
So that's
like
a part
that.
of your
So then-
planning. Pre-planning is if you're going to buy a RV, make sure you can find these resources. You can always find them on your website or on your podcasts, and also through the Plain Dealer and Cleveland.com. Again, tell us a little bit about dealing with some of the issues like neighbors, moving into a new park, getting to know people. What's the average routine when you get to a new park? What are you doing to find out more about other people in your area?
Well, it's really funny. You do meet your neighbors, and most everybody, I'd say 99% of the people are just fantastic. They really are. They're great people, and everybody has a story.
Right.
And we try to find people that maybe they'll have a really interesting story and say, hey, you know what? Can we sit down and talk about this on a podcast?
Excellent.
And it's fun. Now,
That brings the human interest, and everybody is involved that way. And
right.
So, are you also moving into another area? Like, are you going to go beyond the United States and Canada? Are you going into Mexico or any other areas where you could drive?
Well,
RV?
with Mexico, we could drive into Mexico, but we would have to get more insurance. You have to
Oh,
have
okay.
specialized insurance for that.
Okay, very good.
In Canada, you don't. And I prefer Canada. We went up to Nova Scotia and absolutely
Oh,
loved it.
yeah,
It was
this
incredible.
summer we
Nice
spent some
area.
time up there.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
We
Seeing
want to
the
go
maritime.
to, yeah, and we want to get to Banff, and we want to go up into the Yukon. We eventually want to get to Alaska,
Right.
and you know, so there's
That's going to be sweet.
a lot to still see,
Yeah.
you know.
Do you,
And
how do you entertain being a longtime rock and roll radio personality? What do you listen to when you're on the road? What are some of the places you like to go? Concerts, or do you find anything to entertain you in retirement now?
well, I'll tell you, we're both big outdoors people.
Okay.
And so we like to hike. We like to hike. We love the national parks. We love the state parks are
Yeah,
incredible
right.
too.
Very good.
Ohio has fantastic state parks. So does Arizona, and most of the states do. But we like that. We like to get to know the history of the area that we're in and experience that, and just about everything and anything that a city has to offer or an area. It's nice. I prefer being out there.
Right.
I mean, you know, being in those mountainous regions, and Patty kind of prefers to be a little closer to town.
I like cities.
Very
but,
much so, yeah. Shopping and some of the
everything
advantages.
close by.
Now, what are some of, Patty especially, what are some of the things that you as a wife and learning to drive these big larger vehicles like an RV, how is driving for you? What is
Well, you
your,
know-
what is your concerns? Do you have any?
The first two, they were both about 30 feet long and they were gas, and I drove those. I was able to drive those. But then once we got this 38-foot diesel, I have not driven it yet. So I'm a little intimidated by it. And I know we keep saying we got to find a place to get me to practice
started.
and do it in a big parking lot or something. And we're close. We're going to get to a point where it's like time for me to start driving. So
Well, as you say on your podcast, Jeff and Patty, safety is a big issue. You want to make sure when you're passing, you have to do it correctly. And
yeah.
so,
Yeah.
but you learned this all, and that's why I admire you. You learned it on your own. You know, you didn't go, you didn't take a class. You basically, it was on the job training, on the retirement job training, you know?
Yeah, and it's interesting because we've met people that are former bus drivers, like women.
Right.
And so they have no problem,
They're
just
used to
driving
it.
one of these big
Right.
diesel pushers.
Oh, they're amazing.
Yeah.
One thing you said on your podcast that I really appreciate is you have to be flexible. And for people that are thinking, well, this is a great way to retire, we'll do some traveling in an RV, we'll get an RV and cross country. And you say you really have to be ready for change and be flexible. Is that correct, Jeff?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it really is, because things can change in a heartbeat. Especially weather. Always keep your eye on the weather.
Right.
And we change. We just recently were in Yuma, Arizona, and we're going to head back to Palm Springs. And we looked at each other and said, we don't want to do that. We need an adventure. We want to do something a little bit different. And we were able to change on a dime.
And came up to Las Vegas here.
Oh,
Mhm.
that's
Came
nice.
to Las Vegas, but we also stopped along the Colorado River in a place called Earp, California. Spent a couple of nights there. And, that's the beauty of this.
Yeah.
What are some of your favorite parks, national parks, some of the sites you've seen? You mentioned a couple, but if you had to mention your top 3 sites that you've been to and put them in order, how would you do it?
I would say Grand Canyon
Right.
and
Yeah.
Zion National Park. I
Amazing.
mean, those were so much fun to see for the first time. I've never been there.
Yeah.
So
And the Pacific Northwest is incredible.
The Pacific
Right.
Northwest, driving down that coast.
You said
Yeah.
you had to go down 101 in one of your podcasts, Highway 101, instead of
Right.
because it was better advantageous for you for the for the
Yeah.
size of your vehicle, I think you said.
Yeah, and luckily 101 actually runs along the coast throughout most of Washington and Oregon.
Mhm.
And then when you get into California, it kind of goes inland a bit,
Right.
and you can take Highway 1, and you can do that with an RV. But if you're towing a car and you're 38 feet long, it's best to stay
Plus
on
a
the
car.
101.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Good point. So you have a Jeep which you tow, right? And that's your
Right, yeah.
that's your
Yeah, we have.
runaround vehicle, basically.
Yeah.
Keeps you in the area. And when you're visiting, you're going to visit family. And how is your daughter doing? She is Mackenzie. How is she doing out there? She's doing
She's
well.
doing really, really
I know
well.
you're proud of her. You're proud of her.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
She's an aerospace engineer. She spent about 4 or 5 years with SpaceX, and then she was recruited by Universal Hydrogen, and she's developing hydrogen fuel for airplanes, for jets,
Wow.
and for prop-driven planes. And so she goes back. Actually, she goes back and forth from the Seattle area to Los Angeles, where she lives, and. But she's doing really, yeah, we're real proud of her. I mean,
And it's great because there's a campground there. It's a state park, actually, like 10 minutes from where she lives. So it's nice when we go into Los Angeles, we can be close to her. We're on the ocean. We're
Very good.
we can experience that area.
It
And
keeps the
live-
family together, knowing that you can be there, you can visit her, and find
Oh, yeah.
places to go with the family. You've dealt with so many things in the last couple of years, and we've got about 30 seconds left. Would you give us your closing by giving us your podcast information and cleveland.com information once again, Jeff, before we say goodbye?
Yep, it's rockingthervlife.com. We're on Facebook, Jeff Kinsbach, and also we're on Instagram, Rocking the RV Life. And let's see, what else do we have? We have, of course, the Plain Dealer, cleveland.com.
Yep.
And once a month in the Sunday print edition.
And the Plain Dealer podcasts, we're in those.
Yep.
Yeah, it's super. It's good to hear your voice again. Thanks for being on Forum 360 and being
Thank
a part
you.
of
Thank you for
Northeast
having
Ohio
us.
for so many years.
Yeah.
Thanks, Jeff. Thanks, Patty.
A pleasure.
Thank
Have
you.
a good one.
Forum 360 is brought to you by John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, the Akron Community Foundation, Hudson Community Television, the Rubber City Radio Group, Shaw Jewish Community Center of Akron, Blue Green, Electric Impulse Communications, and Forum 360 supporters.